It was August 15th, 2023, on Serenity Cove Island in the Hamptons, the kind of pristine summer evening where the Atlantic breeze carries the scent of salt and expensive perfume. I stood on the dock, my suitcase at my feet, watching the last ferry of the day disappear into the golden horizon. My husband Derek had just handed me a one-way ticket off his family's private island, his mother Patricia standing behind him with that satisfied smirk I'd grown to despise. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Maya, you simply don't belong here, Patricia had announced 30 minutes earlier, her voice dripping with the kind of condescension that comes naturally to old money. This island is for family members who actually contribute something meaningful to the Williams legacy. Derek didn't even look me in the eye, as he nodded in agreement, already turning his attention back to his sister Victoria and her investment banker husband James, who were lounging on the yacht deck with their 10-year-old son Alexander. The irony was almost too perfect. As I stood there, supposedly banished from paradise, my phone buzzed with notifications from my cybersecurity firm's monitoring systems. The same systems that had been quietly protecting this very island's digital infrastructure for the past 18 months. The same company that Patricia and Richard Williams had unknowingly been paying premium rates to secure their precious family compound. But they had no idea that the small tech consultant they'd dismissed as Derek's unfortunate wife was actually the CEO of Guardian Systems, the most sought-after cybersecurity firm on the East Coast. The humiliation had been building for 3 years, ever since Derek and I married in what I thought was a fairy tale wedding. From day one, Patricia made it clear that I wasn't the daughter-in-law she'd envisioned for her precious son. I was Maya Thompson from Austin, Texas, a woman who'd worked her way through MIT on scholarships and built her first tech startup in a cramped apartment above a coffee shop. Derek's family saw none of that achievement. To them, I was just the girl who wasn't Victoria. Victoria Williams Sterling was everything Patricia wanted in a daughter, blonde, polished, and ruthlessly ambitious in all the right ways. She'd married James Sterling, whose family owned half the investment banks in Manhattan, and together they'd produced Alexander, the golden grandchild who could do no wrong. When Victoria spoke, the entire Williams family hung on every word. When I tried to contribute to conversations about business or technology, Patricia would physically turn her back to me and redirect the discussion to Victoria's latest triumph in the financial world. The morning of my exile had started like every other morning during our annual August stay on Serenity Cove. I'd woken up alone in the guest cottage, Derek having chosen to sleep in the main house with his family rather than with his wife. I'd made my way to the kitchen for coffee, only to find Patricia, Richard, Victoria, and James huddled around the breakfast table with serious expressions and paperwork spread between them. "Oh good, Maya's here," Patricia had said without looking up. "We were just discussing some family business matters. Derek mentioned you might have thoughts about our digital security concerns." The way she said it made it clear that my thoughts were neither wanted nor valued, but Derek had apparently volunteered me anyway, probably trying to prove I could be useful somehow. Richard Williams, a man who'd built his maritime empire through a combination of inherited wealth and strategic acquisitions, barely acknowledged my presence. "We've been having some issues with our systems," he grumbled, still focused on his papers. "Boats, island infrastructure, security cameras. Victoria thinks we need to upgrade everything before someone tries to hack us." Victoria leaned back in her chair with that practiced confidence that came from never having been told no. "Daddy, I've been researching this for months. We need a top-tier cybersecurity firm, not some random consultant. There's this company called Guardian Systems that everyone in finance swears by. They're supposed to be the absolute best, but they're probably way out of our budget range." I almost choked on my coffee. Guardian Systems was my company. I'd built it from nothing after 3 years of working 80-hour weeks while Derek was busy playing heir apparent to the Williams fortune. Every major corporation from Austin to Manhattan trusted Guardian Systems to protect their most sensitive data, and Victoria was sitting there talking about my company like it was some mythical unicorn she could never afford. How much could it possibly cost? Patricia asked, her tone suggesting that money was never really an object when it came to protecting the Williams assets. If Victoria recommends them, then that's who we should hire. James nodded sagely, pulling out his phone. I actually know someone who used Guardian Systems for their merger last year. Let me see if I can get us a contact. He scrolled through his contacts while I sat there, invisible as always, watching my own company being discussed like I wasn't capable of understanding basic business concepts. What about Maya? Derek had asked weakly, probably feeling obligated to include his wife somehow. She works in tech, maybe she knows something about cybersecurity. The silence that followed was deafening. Victoria actually laughed, a sound like crystal breaking. Derek, no offense to Maya, but we're talking about protecting millions of dollars in assets. We need professionals, not someone who probably fixes computers at Best Buy. Patricia's smile was razor sharp. Victoria's right, darling. This is serious business. Maya, why don't you go for a walk on the beach while we handle the grown-up decisions? That was the moment I realized I was done pretending that their disrespect didn't hurt. Done watching Derek choose his family's comfort over his wife's dignity. Done being treated like an accessory that didn't quite match the Williams family aesthetic. I'd excused myself from the table and walked to the island's communication center, a small building that housed all the networking equipment for the compound. My phone call to Guardian Systems took exactly 3 minutes. This is Maya Thompson, CEO. I need a full audit of the Williams family account, effective immediately. Yes, that Williams family. And prepare termination paperwork for all services. My assistant Nicole's voice was shocked. Maya, are you sure? The Williams contract is worth almost $2 million annually. They've been one of our biggest clients since you started the company. I'm sure, I'd said, watching through the window as Patricia gestured dismissively in my direction. Send the termination notice this afternoon.
Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
But don't reveal my connection to the company yet. Let them think it's just a business decision. By noon, Patricia's phone was ringing with panicked calls from Guardian Systems' legal department. The Williams family's digital security was being terminated immediately due to incompatible client relationships. Every system on the island, from the yacht navigation to the house security cameras, would lose protection within 24 hours unless they could find alternative coverage. I'd spent the afternoon watching the family scramble. Richard was furious, demanding to know how a premier cybersecurity firm could just abandon them without warning. Victoria was making frantic calls to every tech company in Manhattan, trying to find someone who could match Guardian Systems' level of protection. James was sweating through his polo shirt as he realized that his recommendation might have somehow backfired spectacularly. And Derek? Derek was following his mother around like a lost puppy, nodding along as she blamed everyone except herself for the crisis. When Patricia suggested that maybe I had somehow jinxed their technology luck by being on the island, Derek actually agreed. You know what, Mother? You might be right. Maya's always been unlucky with these kinds of things. Maybe it's better if she just goes back to the mainland until we get this sorted out. That's when Patricia had delivered her ultimatum. Actually, I think it's time we addressed the elephant in the room. Maya, dear, you've never really fit in with our family. Derek deserves someone who can contribute to our legacy, not someone who drags us down. I think it would be best for everyone if you took some time to reevaluate your place in this marriage. The ferry ticket had been purchased within the hour. My belongings were packed by the staff while I sat in shocked silence, realizing that my husband was actually going to let his mother kick me off the island. Derek had handed me the ticket with an apologetic shrug that somehow hurt worse than Patricia's cruelty. It's just temporary, he'd said, but his eyes told a different story. Just until things calm down here. You understand, right? I understood perfectly. I understood that Derek Williams was a coward who would always choose his family's approval over his wife's well-being. I understood that Patricia Williams was a manipulative woman who would destroy anyone who threatened her perfect family narrative. And I understood that Victoria would never see me as anything more than an obstacle to her position as the favorite daughter-in-law. What they didn't understand was that they just made the biggest mistake of their privileged lives. Standing on that dock, watching the ferry disappear, I made a decision that would change everything. I pulled out my phone and called Nicole again. Change of plans, don't just terminate their security services. I want you to do a complete background check on Williams Maritime Holdings. Every business deal, every partnership, every vendor relationship. I have a feeling we're going to find some very interesting connections. Nicole's excitement was audible even over the ocean breeze. Maya, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? I'm thinking that the Williams family is about to learn exactly who they've been underestimating for the past 3 years. And I'm thinking they're going to regret every single moment they made me feel small. As I turned away from the dock, I caught sight of the island's main security office. Through the window, I could see 2 guards frantically trying to restart their monitoring systems, unaware that their protective digital umbrella had just been pulled away by the same woman they'd watched get banished, like a common trespasser. The next morning would bring revelations that would shake the Williams family to their core. But for now, I had 18 hours to prepare for the most satisfying phone call of my life. 18 hours to plan the complete dismantling of their arrogant assumptions. 18 hours until they would discover that the woman they'd kicked off their precious island actually owned the very systems that kept their paradise secure. I smiled as I walked toward the small hotel near the ferry terminal. Tomorrow, Patricia Williams would learn what it really meant to mess with the wrong person. And Derek would discover that his unlucky wife had been building an empire while he was busy playing the dutiful son. The Williams family thought they were untouchable on their private island. They were about to find out how quickly paradise could become a prison when you alienate the person who holds all the keys. Part 2. The Hamptons Hotel felt like a 5-star prison compared to the sprawling luxury I'd just been exiled from. I sat in my modest room, overlooking the marina, laptop open, watching the digital chaos I'd unleashed unfold in real time. Every security camera on Serenity Cove Island was sending error messages. The yacht's navigation system was locked out. Even the smart home controls for temperature and lighting were failing one by one. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Maya, something weird is happening with the island's tech systems. Mom thinks you might know someone who can help fix it. Can you ask around? The audacity was breathtaking. They'd literally thrown me off their island 12 hours ago, and now they wanted me to solve their problems. I set the phone aside and opened my secure connection to Guardian Systems Central Command. From here I could see everything. Every failed login attempt, every system crying out for the security protocols that my company had spent months installing and perfecting. Nicole had worked through the night, and her research was devastating. Williams Maritime Holdings wasn't just a successful luxury yacht company, they were completely dependent on a network of tech partnerships and digital infrastructure that I'd been quietly managing for over a year. The marina management systems, the booking platforms for their charter business, the financial software that tracked their international transactions, even the weather monitoring equipment that kept their boats safe during storms. Guardian Systems had its digital fingerprints on every aspect of their empire. But the real revelation was sitting in my email inbox like a time bomb waiting to explode. 3 months ago, Richard Williams had applied for a massive expansion loan to purchase 2 additional islands in the Caribbean. The bank had approved the loan based largely on Williams Maritime's impressive cybersecurity rating and their partnership with what the loan documents called industry-leading digital protection services. Those services were provided by Guardian Systems. My company's reputation had literally secured them a $50 million loan. I poured myself coffee from the hotel's complimentary machine and settled in to watch the Williams family's morning routine through their own security cameras. The irony was delicious. Even as they scrambled to figure out why their systems were failing, they had no idea that the woman they'd banished was watching their every move through the very cameras that were supposed to protect them. Patricia was pacing the main house living room, her perfectly styled hair showing signs of stress. She was on the phone with what appeared to be her fourth different tech company of the morning, her voice growing more shrill with each conversation. Richard sat at his desk in the study, frantically calling banks and business partners, trying to explain why Williams Maritime's systems were suddenly unreliable. Victoria was the most entertaining to watch. She'd positioned herself as the family's tech expert yesterday, confidently recommending Guardian Systems as the solution to all their problems. Now she was running between her laptop and her phone, trying to find any cybersecurity company that could match Guardian's level of service. The mounting panic in her movements was visible even through the grainy security feed. Derek was lost, following his mother around like a confused child, occasionally glancing toward the dock as if he expected me to miraculously appear with solutions. Every few minutes, he'd check his phone, probably hoping I'd responded to his text with helpful suggestions about fixing their crisis. My secure line rang. Nicole's voice was excited and slightly breathless. "Maya, you need to see what I just discovered. The Williams family doesn't just use our services for basic security, we're literally integrated into their entire business infrastructure. If we pull out completely, their whole operation could collapse within days." "Define collapse," I said, taking another sip of coffee while watching Patricia throw what appeared to be a full tantrum in her kitchen. "Their yacht charter business operates through a booking platform that relies on our security certificates. Without those certificates, they can't process payments or accept new bookings. Their marina management uses our encrypted communication systems to coordinate with international ports. Their insurance policies require continuous cybersecurity coverage, and we're their provider of record. Maya, if Guardian Systems officially terminates their contract, Williams Maritime Holdings could lose their operating licenses in 3 different countries." The scope of their dependence was even more extensive than I'd realized. For almost 2 years, while Patricia was treating me like an unwelcome guest and Victoria was dismissing my intelligence, I'd been the invisible foundation holding their entire business empire together. "There's more," Nicole continued. "Remember that expansion loan I mentioned? The bank specifically included a clause requiring Williams Maritime to maintain their current level of cybersecurity protection. If we terminate their services, they'll be in breach of their loan agreement. The bank could call in the entire $50 million immediately." I closed my eyes and let the magnitude of the situation wash over me. The Williams family had built their recent success on a foundation they didn't even know existed. Their golden daughter-in-law Victoria had spent years bragging about the family's business acumen, never realizing that the woman she'd consistently belittled was the architect of their security and stability. My phone buzzed again, this time it was a call from Derek. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to his increasingly desperate message. "Maya, I know things got heated yesterday, but we really need your help. Mom thinks someone is sabotaging our systems, she's talking about calling the FBI, could you maybe come back and take a look? I promise Mother will be more respectful." The FBI threat was laughable. What were they going to report? That their cybersecurity company had terminated their services legally and with proper notice? That the woman they'd humiliated and banished happened to work in technology? I decided it was time to lay the groundwork for Phase 2 of my plan. I called Williams Maritime Holdings' main office number, knowing it would route through their digital receptionist system, which was of course powered by Guardian Systems infrastructure. The phone rang twice before Patricia's assistant answered. "Williams Maritime Holdings, how may I help you?" "This is Maya Thompson from Guardian Systems," I said, using my most professional voice. "I need to speak with Richard Williams immediately regarding the termination of services." There was a pause, then frantic typing. "I'm sorry, could you repeat the company name?" "Guardian Systems. We're the cybersecurity firm that's been protecting Williams Maritime's digital infrastructure for the past 18 months. Mr. Williams should be expecting this call." More typing, then a longer pause. Please hold while I locate Mr. Williams. I was put on hold, but I could see through the security cameras that Patricia's assistant was running through the house like it was on fire. She found Richard in his study, whispered frantically in his ear, and I watched his face go completely white. He picked up the phone with trembling hands. This is Richard Williams. Mr. Williams, this is Maya Thompson, CEO of Guardian Systems. I'm calling to discuss the immediate termination of all cybersecurity services for Williams Maritime Holdings and Serenity Cove Island. There must be some mistake, Richard said, his voice strained. We never received any termination notice. Our account is current, we've been nothing but satisfied customers. Our records show that termination notice was sent yesterday afternoon. The decision was made due to incompatible client relationships and irreconcilable differences in service expectations. I could see Richard frantically gesturing for Patricia to join him in the study. She rushed in, and he put the call on speaker. This is Patricia Williams. Who did you say you were? Maya Thompson, CEO of Guardian Systems. I'm calling to inform you that all digital security services for your family's properties and businesses will be permanently discontinued as of midnight tonight. Patricia's face went through a fascinating series of expressions: confusion, anger, and then a dawning horror as she began to connect dots she'd never even known existed. Maya Thompson, she repeated slowly. That name sounds familiar. It should, I said, allowing myself a small smile that they couldn't see but could probably hear in my voice. I've been protecting your family's digital assets for quite some time. Unfortunately, recent events have made it clear that this business relationship is no longer viable. Richard was scribbling notes frantically. Miss Thompson, surely we can work this out. What would it take to restore our services? Money is no object. I'm afraid this isn't a negotiation, Mr. Williams. Guardian Systems has a strict policy about working with clients who don't value our contributions. Once that trust is broken, it cannot be repaired. Patricia leaned closer to the phone. Are you related to Derek's wife? Maya Thompson, because if this is some kind of personal vendetta, Mrs. Williams, I can assure you that Guardian Systems operates with complete professional integrity. This decision was made purely on business grounds. Your family's dismissive attitude toward technology professionals has made it clear that we're not a good fit. The silence that followed was deafening. I could see Patricia and Richard staring at each other across the desk, the implications slowly sinking in. They'd spent yesterday treating me like an incompetent burden, while simultaneously depending on my company for their very survival. How much do you want? Richard asked desperately. Double our current rate? Triple? We can negotiate any terms you need. Mr. Williams, some things can't be fixed with money. Your family made it very clear yesterday that you don't respect technology professionals or value their contributions. Guardian Systems prefers to work with clients who appreciate expertise rather than dismiss it. I ended the call and immediately opened my laptop to watch their reactions through the security cameras. Patricia was screaming at Richard, who was frantically dialing numbers from his contact list. Both of them kept glancing toward the door, probably wondering if Derek had any way to contact his suddenly very important wife. My phone started ringing immediately. Derek, calling back for the third time. I let it go to voicemail again. Then Patricia called, then Richard, then Victoria. Every call went unanswered, while I watched them descend into complete panic. The real beauty of the situation was that they still had no idea who I actually was. They knew Maya Thompson was Derek's wife, and they knew Maya Thompson was the CEO of Guardian Systems, but they hadn't made the connection that these were the same person. In their minds, it was just an impossible coincidence that their son's unsuitable wife happened to share a name with the woman who could destroy their business. Nicole called back with an update that made the situation even more delicious. Maya, I've been monitoring their communications. They're trying to hire emergency cybersecurity consultants, but nobody wants to touch them. Word has gotten out in the industry that Guardian Systems dropped them, and everyone assumes there must be a good reason. Plus their systems are so specifically configured for our protocols that it would take weeks to rebuild everything from scratch. What about their immediate security needs? They're completely exposed. No firewall protection, no intrusion detection, no secure communications. Any amateur hacker could walk through their systems like an open door. And Maya, there's something else. 3 of their biggest corporate clients have contracts that specifically require Guardian Systems level security. If those clients find out that Williams Maritime is unprotected, they'll probably terminate their services immediately. The domino effect was beginning. Every decision the Williams family made was built on assumptions about their security and stability, assumptions that I'd been quietly supporting without any recognition or appreciation. Now that support was gone, and their entire world was starting to crumble. Part 3. Victoria was the first to crack. I watched through the cameras as she stormed into Richard's study around noon, her usual composed demeanor completely shattered. She'd spent the morning on the phone with increasingly frustrated potential clients, trying to explain why Williams Maritime's systems were suddenly unreliable. "Daddy, we're losing everything," she announced, throwing a stack of papers onto his desk. The Hartwell account just canceled their charter booking for next month. The Morrison family wants to terminate their yacht management contract. Everyone is saying our security is compromised. Patricia looked up from her own pile of crisis management paperwork. "How is that possible? We were perfectly secure yesterday." "Because yesterday, we had Guardian Systems protecting us," Victoria snapped. "The same company I told you we needed to hire. The same company that apparently fired us because we don't appreciate technology professionals." Richard's face was gray with stress. "Victoria, what exactly did you tell people about our technology needs yesterday?" Victoria's confidence faltered. "I just said we needed better cybersecurity. I mentioned that Maya works in tech, but that we needed real professionals for serious business." "You said that in front of Maya?" Patricia asked, her voice dangerously quiet. "Well, yes, but she's just Derek's wife. She probably works at some little computer repair shop or something. It's not like she could actually understand complex business systems." The silence that followed was broken by Richard's phone ringing. He answered it with obvious dread, his face growing more ashen with each word from the caller. "That was the bank," he announced after hanging up. "They've received notice that our cybersecurity coverage has been terminated. They're requiring immediate proof of replacement coverage, or they'll freeze our expansion loan pending a full security review." Patricia stood up so quickly her chair fell backward. "Freeze the loan? Richard, that's $50 million. We've already committed most of that money to the Caribbean properties." "I'm aware of that, Patricia. I'm also aware that we have 72 hours to prove we have adequate cybersecurity, or the bank will call in the entire loan immediately." Victoria was frantically typing on her laptop. "I'm trying to reach Guardian Systems directly. Maybe if we offer them enough money they'll reconsider." "Good luck," Richard muttered. "I've left 6 messages with their CEO. Maya Thompson isn't taking our calls." That's when Derek walked into the study, looking more confused than concerned. "What's all the shouting about? And why does everyone keep mentioning Maya's name?" The 3 family members stared at him like he'd just asked why water was wet. Patricia found her voice first. "Derek darling, what exactly does your wife do for work?" Derek shrugged. "She's in tech. Consulting or something. She works from home mostly, always on her laptop." "Why, what kind of consulting?" Victoria pressed. "I don't know, computer stuff." She tried to explain it once, but it was all very technical. Something about security and systems. "I usually tune out when she talks about work." Richard slowly turned his laptop screen toward Derek. "Does the name Guardian Systems mean anything to you?" Derek squinted at the screen. "Should it? It's the cybersecurity company that's been protecting our business for almost 2 years. The same company that just terminated our services. The CEO is named Maya Thompson." Derek laughed. "Well, that's a funny coincidence. Same name as Maya." The silence stretched until Victoria cleared her throat. "Derek, when did you say Maya graduated from college?" "My tea. Why? And what did she study?" "Computer science and business administration. She was really good at it apparently. Some kind of scholarship student." Patricia sank back into her chair. "Derek, Show me a photo of your wife? Derek pulled out his phone and found a recent picture of me working on my laptop. He held it up, and I watched through the security camera as 3 faces went completely white. Derek, Richard said carefully, I think your wife might be the CEO of Guardian Systems. Derek's laugh was uncertain now. That's ridiculous. Maya works from our apartment. She doesn't run some big company. Derek, Victoria said, her voice tight with dawning realization. Yesterday, Maya sat at our breakfast table while we discussed hiring Guardian Systems. She watched us talk about how we needed real professionals, not someone who probably fixes computers at Best Buy. She heard every word. So, even if she does work for this Guardian company, which is crazy, she wouldn't do anything to hurt our family. She's my wife. Patricia's voice was deadly quiet. Derek, we kicked your wife off this island yesterday. We told her she didn't belong in our family. We made it clear that we thought she was worthless and unsuccessful. Derek's face was beginning to show the first signs of understanding. But that doesn't mean, she wouldn't. She absolutely would, Victoria interrupted, and she absolutely did. Derek, your wife just destroyed our business because we insulted her intelligence and threw her off the island like she was some kind of servant. Richard was already reaching for his phone. I need to call Maya immediately. If we apologize, if we explain that it was all a misunderstanding. She's not answering our calls, Patricia said flatly. I've tried 15 times. She's not interested in talking to us. Derek was scrolling through his phone frantically. She's not answering me either. All my texts are just sitting there unread. That's when my revenge entered its next phase. I placed a call to Williams Maritime's main line, knowing they'd all be listening this time. Williams Maritime Holdings, the receptionist answered nervously. This is Maya Thompson from Guardian Systems. I need to speak with Derek Williams immediately. There was frantic whispering, then Derek's voice came on the line, shaky and desperate. Maya? Maya, thank God. Where are you? We need to talk. Hello, Derek. I'm calling to inform Williams Maritime Holdings that Guardian Systems' termination of services is final and non-negotiable. Maya, please. This is insane. You're my wife. We can work this out. I'm calling as the CEO of Guardian Systems, not as your wife. Although I notice you never bothered to ask what your wife actually did for a living during the 3 years we've been married. I could hear frantic whispering in the background. Patricia was probably coaching Derek on what to say. Maya, I'm sorry about yesterday. Mother was just stressed about the security issues. We didn't mean any of those things. Actually, Derek, you meant every word. Your family has made it consistently clear that they don't respect my intelligence, my career, or my contributions. Yesterday was just the culmination of 3 years of dismissive treatment. But Maya, you're destroying our business. You're destroying my family. No, Derek, I'm simply withdrawing my protection and support. Your family's business was built on foundations you never bothered to understand or appreciate. I'm just removing those foundations and letting you see what's left. Patricia's voice cut through the background noise. Maya dear, we can make this right. Whatever you want, however much money. Mrs. Williams, this isn't about money, this is about respect. You made it very clear that I don't belong in your family. I'm simply agreeing with you and removing myself completely. You can't do this. Victoria's voice joined the chorus. We have contracts, commitments. People depend on us. You should have thought about that before you decided that Maya Thompson probably fixes computers at Best Buy. You should have considered the consequences before you kicked me off your island for not being successful enough. Derek's voice was breaking now. Maya, please come home. We can fix this. I'll make them apologize properly. Derek, I don't think you understand. There is no fixing this. Your family made their choice yesterday when they decided I wasn't worth basic human dignity. I'm simply living with the consequences of that choice. Richard's voice was desperate. Maya, you're going to bankrupt us. $50 million is at stake here. Mr. Williams, Guardian Systems provided you with premium cybersecurity services for 18 months. During that time, you saved millions in potential losses, won major contracts, and secured massive loans. All based on the protection my company provided. Protection that you took for granted while simultaneously dismissing the CEO as unworthy of your family. We didn't know, Patricia pleaded. If we had known who you were, Mrs. Williams, that's exactly the problem. You treated me badly because you thought I was nobody important. The fact that I turned out to be someone successful doesn't change the ugliness of your character. It just makes your mistake more expensive. I ended the call and sat back to watch the aftermath through their security cameras. Derek was standing in the middle of the study, looking lost and broken. Patricia was crying, which I'd never seen before. Richard was frantically calling lawyers, trying to find some legal way to force me to restore their services. Victoria was researching emergency cybersecurity companies, growing more frustrated with each dead end. The beautiful irony was that even as they panicked about losing my protection, they were still using my security cameras to have their private conversations. They still didn't fully understand the scope of what I controlled. Nicole called with another update that made me smile. Maya, their major clients are starting to panic. Word is spreading through the industry that Williams Maritime has lost Guardian Systems. 3 more companies have suspended their contracts pending security reviews. What's the damage so far? Conservatively, they're looking at about $12 million in immediate losses, but if the bank calls their loan and their insurance companies drop them, it could be closer to $80 million. The cost of treating someone like they don't matter, the price of 3 years of condescension and dismissal, the bill for assuming that Maya Thompson from Austin, Texas wasn't worth basic respect. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Maya, I'm coming to find you. We're going to fix this together. I looked out my hotel window at the ferry dock. In a few hours, Derek would probably arrive on the mainland, ready to beg his wife to save his family's empire. But Derek didn't understand that his wife wasn't coming back. Maya Thompson, the dismissed daughter-in-law, was gone forever. All that remained was Maya Thompson, CEO of Guardian Systems, the woman who held the power to destroy or rebuild the Williams family legacy, and she was just getting started. Part 4. Derek arrived on the evening ferry, looking like he'd aged 5 years in one day. I watched from my hotel window as he stood on the dock, phone pressed to his ear, probably calling my number for the 100th time. His usual confidence was completely gone, replaced by the desperate energy of a man watching his world collapse in real time. I'd spent the afternoon monitoring the Williams family's increasingly frantic attempts to contain the damage. Through their own security cameras, I'd watched Patricia make humiliating calls to business associates, begging for cybersecurity recommendations. Victoria had broken down crying after her 5th potential client canceled their services. Richard had locked himself in his study, surrounded by legal documents and financial statements, trying to find some way to salvage their empire. The most satisfying part was watching them finally understand what they'd lost. Not just a cybersecurity company, but the invisible architect of their recent success. Every business triumph they'd celebrated over the past 2 years had been built on my foundation. Every secure transaction, every protected communication, every piece of digital infrastructure that made their luxury lifestyle possible had been my creation. My phone rang. Derek's name appeared on the screen. This time I answered. Maya, where are you? I'm at the ferry terminal. We need to talk. Hello, Derek. I'm at the Hamptons Harbor Hotel, room 237. I'm coming up right now. Derek, before you do, I need you to understand something. I'm not the same woman you put on that ferry yesterday. That Maya was willing to be invisible, to let your family dismiss her intelligence and treat her like an accessory. This Maya is the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, who just watched her husband choose his family's comfort over his wife's dignity. Maya, please, just let me come up so we can talk face to face. 20 minutes later, Derek knocked on my hotel room door. When I opened it, he looked genuinely shocked by what he saw. I'd traded my usual casual island wear for a sharp business suit. My laptop was open on the desk, showing financial reports and corporate communications. The woman who'd been kicked off his family's island was gone, replaced by the executive who controlled their fate. Maya, he started, then stopped, seeming to really see me for the first time. You look different. I look like myself, Derek. I look like the woman I've always been, the one your family never bothered to notice. He sat heavily in the room's single chair. Maya, I had no idea about your company, about how successful you are. Why didn't you ever tell me? I tried to tell you, Derek. For 3 years I tried to share my work with you. Every time I mentioned a major contract or a business milestone, you changed the subject. Every time I wanted to discuss my career, you turned the conversation back to your family's business. I didn't realize. You didn't realize because you didn't want to realize. It was easier to let your family believe I was some struggling tech worker than to admit your wife might be more successful than you are. Derek ran his hands through his hair. Okay, I messed up. I should have paid more attention, should have supported your career better. But Maya, you're destroying my family's business. You're going to bankrupt people I love. People you love. I repeated. Derek, your family kicked me off their island yesterday. They told me I didn't belong, that I wasn't successful enough to be part of the Williams legacy. They said those things in front of you, and you nodded along. I was trying to keep the peace. You were being a coward. Derek, when your mother demanded that I leave the island, you handed me a ferry ticket. You didn't defend me. You didn't stand up for our marriage. You didn't even ask if I had somewhere to go. Derek's face crumpled. Maya, I know I failed you yesterday, but please, don't punish my whole family for my mistakes. This isn't punishment, Derek. This is consequences. Your family built their recent success on my work while simultaneously treating me like I was worthless. They can't have it both ways. What do you want? What would it take for you to restore our security services? I walked to the window and looked out at Serenity Cove Island in the distance. Derek, do you know what your family's business is actually worth without guardian systems protecting it? What do you mean? I mean that Williams Maritime Holdings has been operating under the illusion of security and stability that my company provided. Without that protection, your insurance policies become void. Your international operating licenses become invalid. Your corporate contracts become unenforceable. The expansion loan your father is so proud of becomes immediately callable. Derek's face went white. How much are we talking about? Your family is about to lose everything, Derek. The island, the boats, the business, possibly even the main house, all because they decided that Maya Thompson wasn't worth basic respect. There has to be something we can do, some way to fix this. Actually, there is. I turned back to face him. Guardian Systems is prepared to offer Williams Maritime Holdings a new contract, premium cybersecurity services, fully restored protection, immediate reinstatement of all security certificates. Hope flooded Derek's face. Yes, absolutely. Whatever the terms, we'll agree. The terms are simple, Derek. Williams Maritime Holdings will be restructured as a subsidiary of Guardian Systems. I'll be the majority owner and CEO. Your family can retain minority ownership and continue to manage day-to-day operations, but all major decisions will go through me. Derek stared at me in shock. You want to take over our family business? Derek, it was never really your family business. It was your family business protected and enabled by my technology. I'm just making that relationship official. Maya, that's our family's legacy. Generations of Williams have built that company, and one generation of Williams nearly destroyed it by underestimating the wrong woman. Derek, your family has two choices. They can accept my terms and retain some ownership in a company that will continue to thrive under my leadership, or they can refuse and watch everything they've built collapse completely. Derek was quiet for a long moment. What about us? What about our marriage? That depends entirely on you, Derek. Are you willing to be married to a woman who's more successful than you are? Are you ready to defend your wife when your family tries to diminish her? Can you handle being Derek Thompson instead of Derek Williams? Derek Thompson. If you want to stay married to me, you'll take my name. You'll make it clear that you've chosen your wife over your family's approval. You'll stand up for our partnership instead of hiding behind their prejudices. Derek looked like I'd asked him to jump off a cliff. Maya, you're asking me to choose between you and my entire family. No, Derek. I'm asking you to choose between a marriage based on mutual respect and a family dynamic based on putting people in their place. Your family made their choice yesterday when they decided I wasn't good enough for them. Now you have to make yours. My phone buzzed with a text from Nicole. The Williams family had just received an official acquisition offer from Guardian Systems. The legal documents I'd had prepared that afternoon were now in their hands, along with a 48-hour deadline for response. Derek, your family should be receiving some paperwork right about now. They have 2 days to decide whether they want to remain in business or not. Derek's phone immediately started ringing. Patricia's name appeared on the screen. Answer it, I said. But Derek, remember that everything you say right now determines whether you have a wife or just a family. Derek accepted the call and put it on speaker. Patricia's voice was high-pitched with panic. Derek, darling, you need to get back here immediately. Maya's company just sent us some kind of takeover document. They want to buy Williams Maritime Holdings. I know, Mother. I'm with Maya now. Well, tell her this is ridiculous. We're not selling our family business to some tech company. Derek looked at me, then at the phone, then back at me. I could see him weighing his options, calculating the costs and benefits of each choice. Mother, he said finally, I think you need to understand something. Maya isn't just the CEO of some tech company. She's my wife, and she's the woman you treated like garbage yesterday. Derek, don't be dramatic. We had a little disagreement, but you kicked her off our island, Mother. You told her she didn't belong in our family. You said she wasn't successful enough to be a Williams. Patricia's voice turned sharp. Derek, you need to talk sense into your wife. She's being vindictive and petty. Actually, Mother, she's being a businesswoman. A very successful businesswoman who's offering to save the family business that you nearly destroyed with your arrogance. I felt something shift in my chest. For the first time in 3 years, Derek was defending me instead of defending his family's behavior. Derek Williams, you get back to this island right now and fix this mess. Patricia demanded. No, Mother. I'm staying here with my wife. And if you want to save the business grandfather built, you'll accept her terms and be grateful she's offering them. Derek ended the call and looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Respect. Maya, I want to be Derek Thompson. I want to be married to the most successful woman I know. And I want to help you show my family what they almost lost forever. For the first time since this all began, I smiled at my husband. Derek, I think it's time we went back to the island. But this time we're going back as partners. Part 5. The return ferry to Serenity Cove Island was scheduled for 10 the next morning, but Derek and I arrived at the dock an hour early. I'd spent the night finalizing the acquisition documents and coordinating with my legal team, while Derek had apparently spent his time thinking about what it really meant to be married to someone more successful than himself. Maya, he said as we waited for the ferry, I owe you an apology that's about 3 years overdue. Go on. I've been a terrible husband, not just yesterday, but for our entire marriage. I let my family dismiss you because it was easier than admitting I was intimidated by your success. I let them think you were just some random tech worker because I was afraid they'd like you better than me if they knew how accomplished you really were. I studied his face, looking for signs of the old Derek who would say whatever he thought I wanted to hear. Instead, I saw something different. Genuine remorse mixed with what looked like actual admiration. Derek, do you remember the night we met? The tech conference in Boston. You were giving a presentation on cybersecurity innovations. Do you remember what I was presenting? Derek looked embarrassed. Honestly, I was so focused on asking you out that I didn't really listen to your presentation. I just knew you were brilliant and beautiful, and I wanted to get to know you. I was presenting Guardian Systems' first major breakthrough, the security protocol that would eventually make my company the most sought-after cybersecurity firm on the East Coast. You were sitting in the front row, nodding along like you understood, and I thought you were genuinely interested in my work. I was interested in you. I should have been interested in your work too. The ferry arrived, and as we boarded I could see Serenity Cove Island in the distance. From here it looked like the paradise I'd been kicked out of yesterday, but I knew that by the time we returned to the mainland tonight, it would be my island. Derek, there's something I need you to understand. When we get to the island, your family is going to try to convince you that I'm being unreasonable. They're going to appeal to your loyalty, your sense of family obligation. They might even try to turn you against me. That's not going to happen, Maya. How can you be sure? Because yesterday I watched my family humiliate the woman I love, and I did nothing to stop it. I'm not making that mistake again. As the ferry approached the island dock, I could see the entire Williams family waiting for us. Patricia stood at the center of the group, her usual perfect composure cracked but not broken. Richard flanked her left side, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Victoria was on the right, clutching her husband James like an anchor. Even little Alexander was there, probably sensing the adult tension without understanding its source. Derek took my hand as we disembarked. Whatever happens, we're in this together. Patricia stepped forward as we reached the dock. Maya, darling, I'm so glad you've come back. We need to discuss this little misunderstanding. Mrs. Williams, there's no misunderstanding. Guardian Systems has made Williams Maritime Holdings a generous acquisition offer. You have 36 hours remaining to accept or decline. Maya, Richard interjected. Surely we can work out something less drastic, perhaps a partnership arrangement, or an expanded service contract. Mr. Williams, Williams Maritime Holdings is currently operating without cybersecurity protection. Your insurance policies have been suspended. Your international operating licenses are under review. Your expansion loan is in technical default. You don't have the luxury of time to negotiate alternatives. Victoria stepped forward, her investment banker training evident in her attempt to take control of the conversation. Maya, I've been researching Guardian Systems. Your company is valued at approximately $40 million. Williams Maritime Holdings is worth at least $60 million. How can you possibly afford to acquire us? I smiled at the question I'd been hoping someone would ask. Victoria, you're absolutely right. Guardian Systems as a standalone company couldn't afford to acquire Williams Maritime Holdings. That's why I've partnered with Thomson Ventures. Part 6 Thomson Ventures. Victoria repeated, her face showing the first cracks in her composed facade. I've never heard of Thomson Ventures. That's because Thomson Ventures is a private investment firm that I established 2 years ago, I explained, watching as the color slowly drained from Richard's face. It's been quietly acquiring stakes in various maritime and technology companies throughout the Northeast. The firm is capitalized at approximately $120 million. Patricia's hand went to her throat. $120 million. The beautiful thing about being underestimated, Mrs. Williams, is that people don't pay attention to what you're actually building. While you were dismissing me as Derek's unsuitable wife, I was creating an investment portfolio that spans 3 industries and 7 states. James finally spoke up, his banker's instincts kicking in. Where did you get that kind of capital? What's the source of your funding? Profits from Guardian Systems, strategic partnerships with venture capital firms in Austin and Silicon Valley, and returns on early investments in cybersecurity startups that are now worth hundreds of millions. James, I've been building wealth while you were all assuming I was struggling to pay my bills. Derek squeezed my hand, and I could see pride replacing the shame that had dominated his expression for the past 24 hours. Maya, I had no idea the scope of what you'd built. Derek, you never asked. None of you ever asked. You were all so busy maintaining your image of the Williams family hierarchy that you never bothered to find out who I actually was. Richard cleared his throat, trying to regain some semblance of control over the conversation. Maya, even if you do have access to that kind of capital, this acquisition would essentially mean the end of Williams Maritime Holdings as a family business. Williams Maritime Holdings ended as a family business the moment you decided to build it on technology you didn't understand or respect. I'm offering you a chance to remain involved in a business that will survive and thrive. Without my offer, you'll have no business at all. Victoria was frantically typing on her phone, probably trying to verify my claims about Thompson Ventures. Her increasingly frustrated expressions told me she was finding exactly what I wanted her to find: carefully planted information about my investment firm's holdings and valuations. "This is impossible," Victoria muttered. "According to these records, Thompson Ventures owns stakes in 14 different companies, including 3 of our major competitors. 16 companies actually," I corrected. "I acquired 2 more yesterday while you were all panicking about your cybersecurity situation: Coastal Marina Management and Atlantic Yacht Services, both companies that Williams Maritime Holdings depends on for critical business operations." The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of seagulls and the gentle lapping of waves against the dock. I could see each family member processing the implications of what I'd just revealed. Not only did I control their cybersecurity, I now controlled key parts of their supply chain and customer base. Patricia was the first to break. "Maya, what do you want from us? What will it take to make this nightmare go away?" "Mrs. Williams, this isn't a nightmare. This is a business transaction. Guardian Systems and Thompson Ventures are offering to acquire Williams Maritime Holdings, retain all current employees, and provide the capital necessary for expansion into new markets. Your family would maintain a 20% ownership stake and continue to manage daily operations." 20%. Richard's voice cracked. "Maya, this business has been in our family for 3 generations, and it can continue to be in your family, Mr. Williams, just not as the controlling interest. You'll be minority partners in a much more successful and stable enterprise." Derek stepped closer to his family, his voice firm in a way I'd never heard before. "Maya is offering you a lifeline. Yesterday you kicked her off this island because you thought she was worthless. Today she's offering to save everything grandfather built. You should be thanking her, not arguing with her." Patricia turned on Derek with a fury that made me step back. "Derek Williams, how dare you speak to your family that way? This woman has destroyed our business and humiliated our name, and you're taking her side." "Mother, this woman is my wife. She's also the most successful entrepreneur any of us have ever met. And yes, I'm taking her side, because she's been on my side for 3 years while all of you treated her like she was beneath us." "Derek, you're choosing her over your own family. I'm choosing respect over arrogance, Mother. I'm choosing partnership over prejudice. And I'm choosing to support the woman who built an empire while you were all busy dismissing her intelligence." Victoria looked up from her phone with an expression of complete defeat. "Maya, according to my research, if Thompson Ventures wanted to, you could destroy Williams Maritime Holdings without acquiring us at all. You could just put us out of business through your other holdings." "That's correct, Victoria. I could terminate your relationships with Coastal Marina Management and Atlantic Yacht Services. I could encourage my portfolio companies to avoid doing business with you. I could make it impossible for Williams Maritime Holdings to operate in this market." "Then why the acquisition offer?" "Because despite how your family has treated me, I'm not interested in destroying lives unnecessarily. Your employees have families to support. Your clients depend on your services. I'm offering a solution that preserves jobs and maintains business relationships while ensuring that Williams Maritime Holdings never again operates from a position of technological vulnerability." James was scrolling through financial websites, his face growing more ashen with each discovery. "Maya, Thompson Ventures is listed as a major investor in TechFlow Solutions, Maritime Security Systems, and Coastal Development Partners. These are industry leaders. James, Thompson Ventures has been very strategic about its investments. We've focused on companies that provide essential services to the maritime luxury market, companies that Williams Maritime Holdings can't operate without." Richard sat down heavily on a nearby bench, the weight of our dependency finally hitting him fully. "Maya, you've basically cornered our entire industry. I've positioned myself to provide comprehensive solutions to maritime businesses that understand the value of technological innovation and security. Williams Maritime Holdings can be part of that ecosystem, or it can be replaced by it. Patricia's composure finally cracked completely. This is extortion. You're holding our business hostage because we hurt your feelings. Mrs. Williams, this is capitalism. I built a more successful enterprise than yours, while you were busy underestimating me. Now I'm offering to use that success to benefit your family instead of replacing them entirely. That's not extortion, that's mercy. Derek turned to face his family with a determination I'd never seen from him before. Maya is offering you more than you deserve after yesterday. She could have destroyed you completely and been legally and ethically justified in doing so. Instead, she's offering you a chance to remain part of a business that will be more successful than anything you could build on your own. Derek, Richard said quietly, what about family loyalty? What about the Williams name? Dad, the Williams name nearly died yesterday because of family arrogance. Maya is offering to preserve it as part of something bigger and better. That's not betrayal, that's evolution. I pulled out my phone and showed them a document that Nicole had prepared that morning. I'm prepared to sweeten the offer. In addition to the 20% ownership stake, I'm proposing that Derek be named President of Maritime Operations, Victoria can continue as Director of Client Relations, and Richard can retain the title of Chairman Emeritus with full consulting rights. Victoria looked up sharply. You'd keep me on as Director of Client Relations? After everything I said about you? Victoria, you're very good at your job. Your mistake was assuming that competence in one area gave you the right to dismiss expertise in another. Under my leadership, that kind of intellectual arrogance won't be tolerated, but your actual skills are valuable. Patricia was staring at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Maya, why would you offer us anything? We treated you terribly. Mrs. Williams, I'm a businesswoman, not a sadist. Revenge might feel good temporarily, but building something lasting feels better permanently. I want Williams Maritime Holdings to succeed under my leadership. That means retaining the people who understand the business, even if they needed to learn some humility along the way. Richard stood up slowly, his businessman's instincts finally overriding his wounded pride. Maya, what happens to the family properties? The island, the main house in Manhattan, the properties would be transferred to Thompson Ventures as part of the acquisition. Your family would have lifetime usage rights to the island and a permanent residence option in the Manhattan house. You'd essentially become my tenants rather than my landlords, but you'd never have to leave. Derek was staring at me with an expression of amazement. Maya, you're offering them everything they had before, just under your ownership. I'm offering them security, Derek, financial security, technological security, and business security. The only thing I'm taking away is their ability to treat people badly based on assumptions about their worth. Part 7. The family retreated to the main house for what Patricia called a private discussion, but which I knew would be a heated argument about whether to accept my terms. Derek and I waited on the terrace, watching through the windows as voices were raised and gestures became increasingly animated. Maya, Derek said, I need to ask you something, and I want a completely honest answer. Go ahead. Are you doing this for revenge, or are you genuinely trying to help my family? I considered the question carefully. Derek, when I started Guardian Systems, my goal was to build something meaningful and successful. When I created Thompson Ventures, my goal was to establish financial independence and security. Neither of those goals had anything to do with your family. But the timing of this acquisition offer. The timing is about opportunity, Derek. Your family's rejection of me revealed their complete dependence on my services. That dependence created a business opportunity that any smart entrepreneur would pursue. So this is about business. Partly. But Derek, I won't lie to you. There's satisfaction in proving that the woman they dismissed as worthless actually controls their fate. There's justice in having them come to me for salvation after they kicked me off their island. Derek nodded slowly. I can understand that. Maya, can I ask you something else? Of course. When did you stop loving me? The question hit me harder than I expected. Derek, I never stopped loving you. But I did stop respecting you. There's a difference. When? The first time your mother insulted my intelligence in front of you and you said nothing. That was about 6 months after we got married. Derek winced. I remember that. She said something about your college being a state school even though MIT is clearly not a state school. You laughed, Derek. You actually laughed at her ignorance about my education rather than correcting her. I was trying to keep things light. You were choosing the easy path over the right path. Derek, I fell in love with a man who seemed confident and strong. I stayed married to a man who turned out to be neither of those things when it came to defending his wife. Maya, I want to be the man you fell in love with. I want to be worthy of what you've built. Then prove it. When your family comes back out here, they're going to try to convince you that I'm being unreasonable. They're going to appeal to your family loyalty and your sense of tradition. They might even threaten to disown you if you support my acquisition. And if they do, then you'll have to choose, Derek. You can be Derek Williams, the dutiful son who follows his family's lead, or you can be Derek Thompson, the husband who stands with his wife. Through the window, we could see the argument inside reaching a crescendo. Patricia was gesturing wildly, while Richard sat with his head in his hands. Victoria was frantically making phone calls, probably trying to find alternative solutions that didn't exist. My phone buzzed with a call from Nicole. Maya, I have updates on the Williams family's financial situation. It's worse than we thought. How much worse? Without Guardian Systems protection, 3 more clients have suspended their contracts. Their insurance company has officially canceled their liability coverage, and the bank just moved up their deadline. They want proof of cybersecurity restoration by tomorrow morning, or they're calling the loan immediately. What's the total exposure now? If the bank calls the loan and their remaining clients cancel contracts, Williams Maritime Holdings will be facing approximately $90 million in immediate obligations with assets worth maybe $30 million. Maya, they're not just facing bankruptcy, they're facing complete financial ruin. I ended the call and turned to Derek. Derek, your family's situation just became much more desperate. They have until tomorrow morning to accept my offer or lose everything. How bad is it? Bad enough that the island, the Manhattan house, the yacht collection, everything will have to be liquidated to pay their debts. Derek's face went pale. Maya, you're not just acquiring their business, you're rescuing them from complete financial destruction. Yes, Derek. And when they come back out here, they're going to act like I'm the villain who created this situation, rather than the hero offering to solve it. As if on cue, the family emerged from the house. Patricia's perfect composure had been replaced by barely controlled panic. Richard looked like he'd aged another 5 years in the past hour. Victoria was clutching her phone like a lifeline, her usual confidence completely shattered. Maya, Patricia began, her voice tight with forced politeness. We've discussed your offer and we have some concerns. I'm listening. This acquisition would essentially end the Williams family's control over our own business. That's simply not acceptable. Derek stood up abruptly. Mother, stop. Just stop pretending you have any choice in this matter. Derek, how dare you? No, Mother, how dare you? Maya, just explain to me that your situation is even worse than you told me. You're not just facing the loss of your business, you're facing complete financial ruin. Maya's offer isn't just generous, it's the only thing standing between our family and total bankruptcy. Richard cleared his throat. Derek, we've been exploring other options. What other options? Dad, what cybersecurity company is going to take you on after Guardian Systems dropped you? What bank is going to refinance your loans without adequate digital protection? What clients are going to trust you with their assets when you can't even protect your own systems? Victoria stepped forward, her investment banking training evident in her attempt to regain control. Maya, we counter-propose a partnership structure rather than an acquisition. Williams Maritime Holdings and Guardian Systems working together as equals. Victoria, I said calmly, you don't have anything to offer in a partnership. Your company is essentially worthless without my protection and technology. You'd be bringing nothing to the table except debt and damaged reputation. That's not true. We have decades of experience, established client relationships, industry knowledge. You have client relationships that are disappearing as we speak because you can't protect their interests. You have industry knowledge that's become irrelevant in a digital world you don't understand. And you have decades of experience managing a business that's about to cease to exist. Patricia's mask of politeness finally slipped completely. Maya, you're being vindictive and cruel. This is our family's legacy. Mrs. Williams, your family's legacy is about to be bankruptcy and failure unless you accept my offer. I'm not being vindictive, I'm being realistic about your options. There has to be another way. There is another way, I said, pulling out my phone. I can call Nicole right now and have her withdraw the acquisition offer entirely. Thomson Ventures can simply let Williams Maritime Holdings collapse and then purchase your assets at bankruptcy auction for about 10 cents on the dollar. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Derek spoke up. Maya, what would happen to the family under that scenario? Derek, your parents would lose their homes, their savings, their investments. Victoria and James would probably survive financially, but they'd lose their positions and their inheritance. Alexander would grow up knowing that his grandparents went from wealth to poverty because they were too proud to accept help from the woman they dismissed as worthless. Patricia sank into a chair, the full weight of the situation finally hitting her. Maya, you're asking us to give up everything we've worked for. No, Mrs. Williams. I'm asking you to admit that what you worked for was built on foundations you didn't understand or appreciate. I'm offering you a chance to maintain your lifestyle and your dignity while acknowledging the reality of who actually controls your fate. Richard stood up slowly, his shoulders sagging with defeat. Maya, what assurances do we have that you'll honor the terms you've outlined? What's to stop you from pushing us out entirely once you control the business? Mr. Williams, I'm going to put all terms in writing with full legal protections. You'll have contracts guaranteeing your positions, your compensation, and your property rights. But more importantly, you'll have my word, which is worth more than any contract. Your word, Mr. Williams. Despite how your family has treated me, I've never lied to you or broken a commitment. Guardian Systems provided exactly the services we promised for 18 months. Thomson Ventures has honored every business agreement we've made. My success is built on reliability and integrity, not deception and manipulation. Derek took my hand and faced his family. Maya is offering you more than you deserve, and certainly more than you'd get from anyone else. She's offering you a chance to remain part of something successful instead of watching everything collapse from the outside. Patricia looked at her son with something between disappointment and admiration. Derek, you're really choosing her over us. Mother, I'm choosing integrity over arrogance. I'm choosing competence over prejudice. And yes, I'm choosing the woman who built an empire over the family that nearly lost theirs through stupidity and pride. Victoria was still staring at her phone, probably looking at more evidence of my business success. Maya, if we accept your terms, what happens to the Williams name? The company will be renamed Thomson Maritime Holdings. Your family can maintain Williams as a subdivision focused on luxury yacht management. The Williams name doesn't disappear, it just becomes part of something larger and more successful. James finally spoke up, his banker's instincts clearly telling him there was no alternative. Maya, we need to accept these terms. The financial reality leaves us no choice. Patricia turned on her son-in-law with fury. James, you can't be serious. We're not selling our family business to this, what, mother? Derek's voice was dangerous now. This successful entrepreneur? This brilliant businesswoman? This woman who's offering to save your family from ruin? Derek, she's manipulated this entire situation. No, mother, you created this situation when you decided to kick my wife off our island for not being successful enough. Maya just revealed how wrong you were about everything. Part 8. Richard Williams stood at the head of the dining room table in the main house. The acquisition documents spread before him like a surrender treaty. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his reading glasses, the weight of 3 generations of family legacy pressing down on his shoulders. Maya, he said quietly, before I sign these documents, I need to understand something. What changed you from the quiet woman who used to sit at our dinner table into someone who could orchestrate the complete takeover of our business? I looked around the room at the faces of Derek's family, seeing fear, resentment, and grudging respect in their expressions. Mr. Williams, nothing changed about me. You just finally learned who I actually was. But the Maya we knew would never have done something like this. The Maya you knew never existed, Derek interjected. You all created a fictional version of my wife in your minds because the real version threatened your sense of superiority. Patricia sat rigidly in her chair, her perfect posture the only thing left of her usual commanding presence. Maya, I need to ask you directly, are you doing this to punish us for how we treated you? Mrs. Williams, I'm doing this because your family's business was built on my work, and you never acknowledged that contribution. I'm simply making the relationship official and ensuring it's sustainable. But surely you can understand our perspective. Victoria said, her voice carefully modulated to sound reasonable. From our point of view, this feels like revenge disguised as a business transaction. Victoria, from my perspective, your family has been taking credit for my success while simultaneously dismissing my worth. That's not a sustainable business model. Derek placed his hand on my shoulder. Maya, maybe you should tell them about the other offers you've received. I nodded, pulling out my phone and accessing the secure files Nicole had prepared. This morning, 3 different investment firms contacted Thomson Ventures with offers to purchase Williams Maritime Holdings assets at bankruptcy auction. The highest bid was $42 million for everything, including the island. Richard's face went white. $42 million. But our assets are worth at least $60 million. Not without adequate cybersecurity and digital infrastructure. They're not. And certainly not with your current debt load and legal liabilities. Legal liabilities? James asked sharply. James, when your cybersecurity fails and client data is compromised, there are significant legal consequences. Williams Maritime Holdings is currently exposed to potential lawsuits from every client whose information has been vulnerable since Guardian Systems terminated services. Victoria was frantically typing on her laptop. Maya, are you saying we could be sued by our own clients? Victoria, I'm saying you are being sued by your clients. 3 lawsuits were filed this morning. Maritime Insurance Group, Coastal Development Partners, and Atlantic Luxury Charters are all claiming breach of contract due to inadequate data protection. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of Patricia's sharp intake of breath. How much are they suing for? Richard asked weakly. Conservatively, about $20 million in damages and legal fees. Realistically, they'll probably settle for less, but only if Williams Maritime Holdings still exists as a functioning business entity. Derek squeezed my shoulder. Maya, tell them about the protection you're offering. Under Thomson Ventures ownership, all existing legal challenges would be assumed by the parent company. We have the legal resources and insurance coverage to defend against these suits effectively. Your family would be completely protected from personal liability. Patricia finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Maya, you're offering to take on $20 million in legal problems. Mrs. Williams, Thompson Ventures has dealt with much larger legal challenges. These suits are manageable within our existing legal framework. Richard set down his reading glasses and looked directly at me. Maya, I need to apologize, not just for yesterday but for 3 years of treating you like you didn't matter. Mr. Williams, I appreciate that. No, you don't understand. I need to apologize, because I realize now that you've been protecting our business and our family for years while we took credit for successes that were actually yours. Derek sat up straighter. Dad, what do you mean? Derek, every major contract we've won in the past 2 years, every expansion opportunity, every technological upgrade that impressed our clients, it was all possible because of Maya's cybersecurity services. We were walking around bragging about our business acumen when we were actually just benefiting from our daughter-in-law's expertise. Victoria closed her laptop slowly. Maya, when you first installed our security systems, I remember telling clients that Williams Maritime Holdings had invested in cutting-edge cybersecurity. I was taking credit for your work. Victoria, you were taking credit for a business decision you didn't even know had been made. Patricia's composure cracked completely. Maya, how long have you been protecting us without us knowing? Mrs. Williams, Guardian Systems began providing basic security monitoring for Williams Maritime Holdings about 6 months after Derek and I got married. Over time, those services expanded to include comprehensive digital protection, infrastructure management, and regulatory compliance support. 6 months after you married Derek, Richard repeated slowly. Maya, you've been secretly supporting our business for almost our entire relationship. It wasn't secret, Mr. Williams, it was just invisible to people who didn't bother to ask questions about how their technology actually worked. Derek turned to his family with an expression I'd never seen before. Pride mixed with anger, determination mixed with disappointment. Do you all understand now? Maya has been the backbone of our family's success for years, while you've been treating her like she was lucky to be invited to dinner. Patricia stood up abruptly and walked to the window overlooking the ocean. Maya, I've been incredibly stupid. Mrs. Williams, you've been human. We all make mistakes based on limited information and unconscious biases. No, Maya, I've been worse than stupid. I've been willfully blind. I saw how intelligent you were, how quietly competent, how Derek lit up when he talked about your work. I chose to dismiss all of that because I wanted Victoria to be the successful daughter-in-law. Victoria looked stricken. Mother, you never told me you wanted me to be the successful one. Victoria, darling, I didn't need to tell you. I showed you every day by praising your achievements and ignoring Maya's. I created a competition that didn't need to exist. Derek stood up and walked to where his mother stood by the window. Mother, Maya isn't trying to replace Victoria or diminish her accomplishments. She's trying to save our family business and include all of us in its success. Patricia turned back to face the room. Maya, if I sign these documents, what happens to our relationship? Can we ever be a real family? Miss Williams, that depends entirely on whether you can accept me as an equal rather than as someone you need to tolerate for Derek's sake. I want to try. Maya, I want to learn how to be a mother-in-law worthy of the daughter-in-law I actually have, not the one I thought I wanted. Richard picked up his pen and looked at the signature line on the acquisition documents. Maya, before I sign this, I need to ask one more question. What are your plans for the future of this business? Williams, Thompson Maritime Holdings will expand into new markets while maintaining the luxury service standards that Williams Maritime Holdings is known for. We'll integrate advanced cybersecurity and digital infrastructure across all operations. We'll establish partnerships with other premium service providers in the maritime industry, and our family's role in all of this. Your family will continue to manage client relationships and daily operations, while Thomson Ventures handles strategic planning and technological development. It's a partnership that plays to everyone's strengths. Derek returned to his seat beside me. Maya, what about us? What does this mean for our marriage? Derek, it means we're finally partners in everything. Business, personal life, all of it. Victoria cleared her throat. Maya, I need to say something. I owe you an apology that goes beyond yesterday's incident. Go ahead, Victoria. For 3 years, I've been intimidated by your intelligence and competence. Instead of admitting that and trying to learn from you, I convinced myself that you were somehow less qualified than me. I turned my insecurity into condescension, and that was wrong. Victoria, we all have insecurities. The difference is whether we use them as excuses to diminish others, or as motivation to improve ourselves. Richard signed the first document with a flourish that seemed to surprise even himself. Maya, I'm signing these papers not just as a business decision, but as an admission that our family needs your leadership. One by one, the family members added their signatures to the acquisition documents. Patricia signed with tears in her eyes. Victoria signed with visible relief. Derek signed with obvious pride. When the last signature was complete, I stood up and addressed the room. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Thomson Maritime Holdings. Our first board meeting will be tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Patricia looked up from the documents. Maya, will you stay for dinner tonight, as family? Mrs. Williams, I'd like that very much. As we prepared to leave the dining room, Derek took my arm. Maya, how does it feel to own a private island? I looked out at Serenity Cove, stretching toward the horizon, no longer the paradise I'd been exiled from, but the headquarters of my expanding maritime empire. Derek, it feels like coming home. Part 9. The first board meeting of Thomson Maritime Holdings took place the next morning in what had been Richard's private study. I'd had the staff rearrange the furniture overnight, replacing the old mahogany desk with a modern conference table that seated 8 people comfortably. The message was subtle but clear. This was no longer Richard Williams' domain. I arrived at 8:30 to find the entire family already assembled, an unusual punctuality that spoke to their new understanding of the power dynamics. Derek sat at my right hand, a positioning that hadn't been accidental. Patricia and Richard flanked the other side of the table, while Victoria and James took seats near the far end. Good morning, everyone, I began, opening my laptop and projecting the first slide onto the wall-mounted screen. This is Thomson Maritime Holdings' first quarterly strategic review. The numbers on the screen told a story of transformation that would have been impossible under the old Williams management. Revenue projections showed a 40% increase within 6 months, driven by expanded cybersecurity services and new digital infrastructure offerings. Richard leaned forward, studying the projections with obvious amazement. Maya, these numbers seem almost too good to be true. Mr. Williams, these projections are conservative. They're based on contracts I've already negotiated with Thomson Ventures' existing portfolio companies. Williams Maritime Holdings had the industry relationships but lacked the technological capabilities to pursue these opportunities. Victoria was taking notes furiously, her investment banking background evident in her focus on the financial details. Maya, I'm seeing revenue streams here that we never even considered. Digital security consulting, infrastructure management, technology integration services. We were operating in maybe 30% of our potential market. Victoria, that's exactly right. Williams Maritime Holdings was thinking like a traditional yacht management company. Thomson Maritime Holdings thinks like a comprehensive maritime technology solutions provider. Derek scrolled through the projections on his tablet, his expression growing more impressed with each page. Maya, you're not just saving our family business, you're revolutionizing it. Derek, I'm applying the same innovation mindset that built Guardian Systems and Thomson Ventures. The maritime luxury market is ready for technological disruption, and we're going to be the ones providing it. Patricia had been unusually quiet throughout the presentation, but she finally spoke up. Maya, I need to understand something. These expansion plans require significant capital investment. Are you prepared to fund this growth personally? Mrs. Williams, Thomson Ventures, has already secured a credit line of $200 million for maritime expansion projects. The investment capital is available immediately. James nearly dropped his coffee cup. $200 million? Maya, how did you secure that kind of credit line? James, Thomson Ventures, has a track record of successful investments and strong partnerships with major venture capital firms. Banks compete to lend money to companies with our growth profile and success rate. The second slide showed organizational charts that reflected the new reality of family roles within Thomson Maritime Holdings. Derek's title as President of Maritime Operations came with genuine authority over yacht management and client services. Victoria's position as Director of Client Relations included oversight of a significantly expanded client development team. Maya, Victoria said, studying her new organizational chart, you're giving me responsibility for departments that don't currently exist. Victoria, Thomson Maritime Holdings will be hiring 12 new employees over the next 4 months. Your client relations department will expand from 2 people to 8 people. The opportunities for professional growth under this structure are substantial. Richard was examining his own role as Chairman Emeritus with obvious relief. Maya, you're allowing me to maintain dignity while acknowledging that I'm no longer capable of managing a business this complex. Mr. Williams, your industry experience and client relationships remain valuable assets. The Chairman Emeritus role allows you to contribute your expertise without the stress of daily management responsibilities. Derek looked around the table at his family members, all of whom seemed genuinely excited about their new roles. Maya, you've managed to give everyone more responsibility and more opportunity while maintaining family involvement. Derek, that was always the goal. This isn't a hostile takeover, it's a strategic restructuring that benefits everyone involved. The third slide revealed something that made the entire room fall silent. Thomson Maritime Holdings' 5-year plan included expansion into the Caribbean, Mediterranean, and Pacific markets, with projected annual revenues exceeding $500 million. Patricia stared at the screen in disbelief. Maya, you're talking about building a global maritime empire. Mrs. Williams, the luxury maritime market is fragmented and technologically outdated. Thomson Maritime Holdings has the opportunity to establish market leadership through superior service and cutting-edge technology. Victoria was frantically calculating numbers on her tablet. Maya, if these projections are accurate, Thomson Maritime Holdings could become one of the largest maritime service companies in the world. Victoria, these projections are based on demonstrated market demand and verified technological capabilities. The growth potential is limited only by our execution capabilities. James had moved beyond amazement to genuine respect. Maya, I've worked with major investment firms for 15 years. I've never seen a business plan this ambitious and this well supported. James, this business plan is the result of 3 years of market research and strategic positioning. I've been preparing for this opportunity since the day I married Derek. Derek turned to me with an expression of complete admiration. Maya, you've been planning this transformation since we got married? Derek, I've been building the capabilities that would allow me to transform any business I became involved with. Your family's business was just the most obvious application of those capabilities. The fourth slide showed something that brought tears to Patricia's eyes. Thomson Maritime Holdings' expansion plans included the establishment of a Williams Family Maritime Foundation, dedicated to supporting maritime education and coastal environmental protection. Maya, Patricia said softly, "You're preserving our family's legacy even as you transform our business." Mrs. Williams, the Williams family's commitment to maritime excellence and environmental stewardship deserves to be perpetuated. The foundation will ensure that those values continue to influence the industry for generations. Richard stood up slowly and walked to the window overlooking the harbor where 3 Thomson Maritime Holdings vessels were already displaying new corporate logos. "Maya, I need to ask you something, and I want a completely honest answer." "Of course, Mr. Williams. Do you forgive us for how we treated you?" I considered the question carefully, aware that my answer would set the tone for all future family relationships. "Mr. Williams, forgiveness implies that someone did something wrong to me personally. What your family did was make business decisions based on incomplete information and unconscious biases. Those decisions created opportunities that I was prepared to capitalize on." "That's not really an answer, Maya. Mr. Williams, I don't harbor personal resentment toward any of you, but I also won't pretend that your past behavior was acceptable. What matters now is whether we can build something better together." Derek reached for my hand. "Maya, I want to make a public statement. At tomorrow's press conference, I want to make it clear that my wife is the visionary behind Thomson Maritime Holdings' success." "Derek, that's not necessary." Part 10 Final. The press conference was scheduled for 2 p.m. on the island's main terrace, overlooking the harbor where Thomson Maritime Holdings' newly branded fleet sparkled in the afternoon sun. I'd spent the morning coordinating with Nicole and our public relations team, ensuring that every detail of the announcement would position Thomson Maritime Holdings as the industry leader it was destined to become. Derek had insisted on arriving early, spending an hour reviewing his prepared remarks and asking for my feedback on his delivery. The transformation in my husband over the past week had been remarkable. The uncertain man who'd put me on a ferry in exile had been replaced by someone who genuinely seemed proud to be married to a successful entrepreneur. "Maya," he said, adjusting his tie for the 3rd time, "I want to make sure I get this right. This press conference isn't just about announcing new ownership. It's about acknowledging the truth of who you've always been. Derek, just speak from the heart. Tell them about the woman you married, not the woman your family thought they were dismissing." The media began arriving at 1:30, a collection of maritime industry journalists, business reporters, and financial analysts who'd been intrigued by the cryptic announcement of a major transformation in luxury maritime services. I watched from the house as they set up cameras and recording equipment, most of them probably expecting a routine corporate restructuring announcement. Patricia emerged from her room looking more nervous than I'd ever seen her. She'd spent considerable time on her appearance, clearly understanding that this press conference would define how she was perceived going forward. The woman who'd kicked me off this island 4 days ago would now have to stand publicly beside me as I announced my ownership of everything she'd once controlled. "Maya," she said, approaching me with obvious hesitation, "I've been thinking about what I want to say when the reporters ask about our family dynamics." "What have you decided?" "I want to tell them the truth. That I was blind to your capabilities and that I'm grateful you're giving our family a chance to remain part of something extraordinary." Victoria appeared beside her mother dressed in the sharp business attire that had always been her armor in professional settings. "Maya, I've prepared a statement about the technological innovations that Thomson Maritime Holdings will be implementing. I want to make it clear that these advances were only possible because of your expertise." Richard joined us on the terrace, carrying a folder of documents that he'd clearly been reviewing extensively. "Maya, I have detailed financial projections that demonstrate how Thomson Maritime Holdings' revenue will increase under your leadership. I want the press to understand that this acquisition represents growth, not just ownership change." James appeared with his laptop, ready to field any complex financial questions that might arise. Maya, I've prepared comparative analyses showing how Thomson Maritime Holdings' new structure positions it favorably against all major competitors. The numbers tell a compelling story. At exactly 2 p.m., I stepped up to the podium that had been positioned at the center of the terrace. The assembled journalists quieted immediately, their cameras and recording devices focused on capturing every word of what they'd been told would be a significant industry announcement. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Maya Thompson, CEO of Guardian Systems and Thomson Ventures. I'm here today to announce the acquisition of Williams Maritime Holdings and its transformation into Thomson Maritime Holdings, a comprehensive maritime technology solutions provider. The immediate response was a flurry of raised hands and shouted questions, but I continued with my prepared remarks before acknowledging any interruptions. Thomson Maritime Holdings represents the convergence of traditional maritime excellence with cutting-edge technological innovation. Under this new structure, we will provide not just luxury yacht management services but comprehensive cybersecurity, digital infrastructure, and technological integration solutions for the entire maritime luxury market. A reporter from Maritime Business Weekly raised her hand. Ms. Thompson, can you explain the relationship between Thomson Ventures and the Williams family? This seems like an unusual acquisition structure. Derek stepped forward to the microphone with confidence that surprised even me. I'm Derek Thompson, President of Maritime Operations for Thomson Maritime Holdings. I'm also Maya's husband. For 3 years, my family operated a successful maritime business without realizing that our success was built on the technological foundation that my wife had quietly provided. The reporter looked confused. Mr. Thompson, are you saying your wife was already involved in Williams Maritime Holdings before this acquisition? I'm saying that Guardian Systems, my wife's cybersecurity company, has been protecting Williams Maritime Holdings' digital infrastructure for over 2 years. My family was benefiting from Maya's expertise while simultaneously underestimating her capabilities. Patricia stepped to the microphone next, her voice steady despite the obvious difficulty of what she was about to say. I'm Patricia Williams, and I need to acknowledge something publicly. 4 days ago, I made the mistake of asking Maya to leave our family island because I didn't believe she was successful enough to be part of the Williams legacy. Yesterday, I discovered that Maya's companies are worth over $150 million, and that she's been quietly supporting our business success for years. The assembled journalists were frantically taking notes, clearly sensing that this was more than a routine business announcement. A reporter from the Hamptons Business Journal raised his hand. Mrs. Williams, are you saying this acquisition was prompted by a family disagreement? I'm saying that this acquisition was prompted by my family's failure to recognize and appreciate the extraordinary woman who married my son. Maya Thompson is the most successful entrepreneur any of us have ever met, and we were too arrogant to realize it. Victoria approached the microphone with the professional composure that had always served her well in high-pressure situations. I'm Victoria Williams Sterling, Director of Client Relations for Thomson Maritime Holdings. I want to address the technological innovations that will distinguish our company in the marketplace. She proceeded to outline the cybersecurity enhancements, digital infrastructure improvements, and technological integration services that Thomson Maritime Holdings would offer, speaking with genuine enthusiasm about capabilities that hadn't existed under the old Williams management structure. A reporter from Tech Industry Today raised her hand. Miss Williams Sterling, how significant are these technological advantages in the current maritime market? These technological advantages will allow Thomson Maritime Holdings to provide services that our competitors simply cannot match. We're not just managing yachts, we're providing comprehensive digital security and infrastructure solutions that protect our clients' most valuable assets. Richard stepped forward for his portion of the presentation, his voice carrying the authority of decades in the maritime industry. I'm Richard Williams, Chairman Emeritus of Thomson Maritime Holdings. I want to discuss the financial projections that demonstrate why this transformation was not just necessary but inevitable. He outlined the revenue growth projections, market expansion plans, and capital investment strategies that would position Thomson Maritime Holdings as a global leader in maritime technology solutions. His presentation was detailed and compelling, clearly demonstrating that this acquisition represented business opportunity rather than family drama. A reporter from Financial Harbor raised his hand. Mr. Williams, what was Williams Maritime Holdings' financial condition before this acquisition? Richard's answer was honest and devastating. Without Maya's technological protection and business acumen, Williams Maritime Holdings was facing potential bankruptcy within 6 months. This acquisition saved our business and transformed it into something far more valuable than it could ever have been under our original management. James provided detailed financial analyses that supported Richard's assertions, presenting comparative data that showed how Thomson Maritime Holdings' new structure created competitive advantages that would be difficult for other companies to replicate. The questions continued for over an hour, covering everything from technological capabilities to family dynamics to financial projections. Throughout the entire session, the Williams family members consistently credited me with the vision and expertise that had made Thomson Maritime Holdings possible. When the formal presentation concluded, several reporters approached me individually for more detailed interviews. The questions revealed genuine interest in the business story behind the family drama, focusing on how Guardian Systems and Thomson Ventures had quietly become major players in the maritime technology sector. Ms. Thomson asked a reporter from Entrepreneur Weekly, "What advice would you give to other women who might be underestimated in family business situations?" "Build your own success independently," I replied. "Don't wait for recognition or appreciation from people who've already decided you're not worth their attention. Create value that speaks for itself and let your achievements change minds rather than arguments." What's next for Thomson Maritime Holdings? We'll be announcing expansion into Caribbean and Mediterranean markets within the next 3 months. We're also developing partnerships with major technology companies to provide even more comprehensive maritime solutions. This is just the beginning of what Thomson Maritime Holdings will become. As the reporters packed up their equipment and prepared to leave, Derek approached me with an expression of complete admiration. "Maya, watching you command that press conference was incredible. You handled every question with authority and grace. Derek, you did beautifully too. Your acknowledgement of my contributions meant more to me than any business success." Patricia joined us as the last of the media representatives departed. "Maya, I know this doesn't undo the hurt I caused, but I want you to know that I'm genuinely proud to call you my daughter-in-law. Mrs. Williams, what matters is what we build together going forward." Victoria approached with James, both of them looking energized by the afternoon's events. "Maya, I've never been part of a business presentation that generated that much genuine excitement." The reporters were asking for follow-up interviews before they even left. "Victoria, Thomson Maritime Holdings is going to give you opportunities to showcase your abilities in ways that weren't possible under the old structure." Richard was the last to join our group, carrying a copy of the press release that would be distributed to industry publications over the next 24 hours. "Maya, in 40 years of business, I've never seen a more impressive demonstration of leadership and vision. Mr. Williams, this is what happens when everyone's talents are properly utilized and appreciated." That evening, as the sun set over Serenity Cove Island, now officially the headquarters of Thomson Maritime Holdings, I stood on the same dock where I'd been exiled 4 days earlier. Derek stood beside me, no longer the conflicted man torn between family loyalty and marriage commitment, but a genuine partner in everything we were building together. "Maya," he said, "I need to ask you something." "What's that? Are you happy with how everything turned out, with our marriage, with the business, all of it?" I considered the question while watching the lights begin to twinkle across Thomson Maritime Holdings' expanding fleet. "Derek, I'm satisfied. I built something meaningful, I proved my worth to people who dismissed me, and I created opportunities for everyone involved to succeed. But more importantly, I finally have a husband who sees me for who I actually am. Maya, I want to spend the rest of our marriage making sure you never doubt that I value everything about who you are. Derek, that's all I ever wanted. Recognition, respect, and partnership. My phone buzzed with a message from Nicole. The press coverage of Thomson Maritime Holdings' announcement was already generating interest from potential clients and business partners. 3 major yacht management companies had contacted us about partnership opportunities. 2 technology firms wanted to discuss integration possibilities. And a luxury resort chain was interested in our cybersecurity services for their maritime operations. Derek, I said, showing him Nicole's message, Thomson Maritime Holdings is about to become much busier than we anticipated. Maya, are you ready for that level of growth and responsibility? Derek, I've been preparing for this opportunity my entire career. The question is whether your family is ready to be part of something this ambitious. As if summoned by our conversation, Patricia, Richard, Victoria, and James emerged from the main house and joined us on the dock. The group that had gathered here 4 days ago to exile me from their paradise now stood together as business partners and family members united in building something extraordinary. Maya, Patricia said, I want to thank you for giving us the chance to be part of Thomson Maritime Holdings' success. Mrs. Williams, I want to thank you for finally seeing me as someone worth including. Victoria was scrolling through messages on her phone, her expression growing more excited with each notification. Maya, I'm getting calls from clients who saw the press coverage. The demand for our new services is already exceeding our capacity. Victoria, that's why we're expanding the staff and upgrading our infrastructure. Thomson Maritime Holdings will be ready to meet whatever demand the market creates. Richard was studying financial reports on his tablet, clearly impressed by the early market response to our announcement. Maya, the preliminary numbers suggest that Thomson Maritime Holdings could exceed even our most optimistic projections. Mr. Williams' success creates its own momentum. The key is maintaining the quality and innovation that distinguish us from our competitors. James had received messages from his contacts in the investment banking world, all expressing interest in Thomson Maritime Holdings' expansion plans. Maya, there are major firms that want to discuss providing additional capital for international expansion. James, Thomson Ventures has the capital necessary for our current plans, but will certainly consider strategic partnerships that accelerate our growth. As we stood together on the dock, watching the lights of Thomson Maritime Holdings' fleet reflect in the calm harbor waters, I realized that this moment represented more than business success or family reconciliation. It represented the complete transformation of how value and worth are recognized and rewarded. 4 days ago, I'd been dismissed as the unsuccessful wife who didn't belong in the Williams family legacy. Tonight, I stood as the CEO and majority owner of everything they'd built, having proven that success isn't always visible to people who aren't looking for it. Derek took my hand as we prepared to return to the main house. Maya, what do you think the next chapter of our story will be? Derek, I think the next chapter will be about building something even more extraordinary than what we've accomplished so far. The Williams family had learned that underestimating someone based on incomplete information can be the most expensive mistake a family or business can make. I'd learned that sometimes the most satisfying victories come not from destroying those who hurt you, but from proving that their judgment was wrong while giving them the opportunity to be part of something better. Thomson Maritime Holdings would go on to become one of the most successful maritime technology companies in the world, with operations spanning 5 continents and annual revenues exceeding the most ambitious projections anyone had imagined. The Williams family would prosper as part of that success, having learned to value competence over assumptions and partnership over prejudice. And Derek and I would build a marriage based on mutual respect and genuine partnership, proving that the strongest relationships are built when both people are free to be exactly who they are, without diminishment or dismissal. Sometimes the best revenge is simply revealing who you've always been to people who were too blind to see it. And sometimes, if you're generous enough, you can give those people the chance to benefit from the very qualities they once dismissed. Serenity Cove Island would remain our home, but it would also serve as the headquarters for a maritime empire built on the foundation of never again underestimating the quiet strength of someone who chooses to build rather than simply complain. The woman who'd been kicked off this island for not being successful enough had returned as its owner not through luck or manipulation but through years of quiet competence and strategic vision. And everyone who dismissed her intelligence now worked for her, prospered under her leadership, and benefited from the very capabilities they'd once thought were worthless. That's the power of knowing your own worth, even when others refuse to recognize it. And that's the satisfaction of building something so undeniably successful that even your harshest critics have to acknowledge that they were completely wrong about everything. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.